And today's story is number 9. And thanks to Yuichi, we have it shared on the screen if you don't have your book. The Poor Window Frame, an inspiring glimpse of a mother and child. This happened once when I was riding a train on my way to give a speech. The car interior was spacious and quiet, with many unfilled seats. Feeling relaxed, I settled back and opened up a book I'd brought along. After a while, tired from reading and lulled by the rhythmical vibrations of the train, I began to nod off, only for my dreams to be shattered by an ear-splitting whistle and the metallic screech of brakes. Apparently, the driver had found an obstruction of some kind at a crossing. The shock of the sudden stop threw me forward, but I managed somehow to stay upright. In the same instant, the shrill sobs of a little child rang out. I saw then that the seats across the aisle in front of me were occupied by a young mother and her child, who had apparently been amusing himself by sitting with his forehead pressed against the window pane, watching the scenery fly by. When the train jerked to a stop, the tot's head banged sharply into the window frame. His wails grew louder and more frantic. Afraid he was hurt, I jumped up, but to my relief there was no sign of injury. Then I witnessed a scene so heartwarming that I was deeply touched. As the child's pain lessened, he gradually quieted down while his mother rubbed his head reassuringly and murmured soothing words. Sweetheart, that must really hurt. I'm so sorry. I'll rub it for you and make the pain go away. But you weren't the only one who got hurt. The poor window frame did too. Let's rub it and make it feel better, shall we? The Toad nodded, and sure enough, he and his mother together began to pat the window frame. I felt chastened, for I had assumed she would say something more on these lines. That must really hurt. I'm so sorry. It's all the fault of this naughty window frame. Let's spank it and teach it a lesson, shall we? Such a scene is common enough, giving a toddler a vent for his rage and allowing the moment to pass. All too often, when life deals out pain, people respond by searching for someone else to blame. Perhaps I reflected, we parents implant this response in our children without meaning to. The child is father of the man, goes the saying, and surely parents have enormous influence in shaping the character of small children. People who think only of themselves and cannot empathize with others end up in the darkness. Those who would enter the shining pure land must take the high road of benefiting others as well as themselves, for benefiting others is indeed inseparable from benefiting oneself. I left the train wishing true happiness to that mother and child with all my might. Okay, very good. This is a very heartwarming story that also enables us to look back and self reflect on whether, when something bad happens to a child, yeah, isn't it more common that we're like, yeah, let's bang it together? We are encouraging kind of violence unknowingly by feeding into that anger. Yeah, in Buddhism, the viewpoint on anger is very clear, which honestly kind of saved my life, just being so clear about anger. Anger is dreadful. Yeah, period. Yeah, so we need to confront our anger and find the cause of anger and And little by little, thanks to the power of the Dharma, we can untangle those things that trigger us. And also, according to the story, consider the point of view of the other. So in this case, it's a window frame. So imagine if a window frame keeps getting banged again and again and again. It takes a certain number of times before it will break, it will fall apart like everything else. Yeah, everything is impermanent. It's not going to last forever. So it's action and reaction, like the third law of Newton. There's always going to be a reaction in accordance to the magnitude and the force of that action. Yeah, it's always the opposite direction. And but it's equal magnitude and opposite direction from the original force. So if we learn about this or try to become more mindful about the action reaction and try to put ourselves in the shoes of others and try to understand what they might have been going through, it softens our own heart and it cultivates compassion instead of anger. So that's the best antidote to anger, the patience and compassion. Yeah, patience, because we don't want to jump to conclusions. It's never good to make snap judgments. We need to be patient, consider all sides, all the data. There's so many things we are not aware of. Humble our mind and become aware of it. Consider what other variables might be playing here. Yeah. So without our knowledge, we instill anger or violence, revenge, retaliation in our children. And who knows, maybe this is why the earth and the world we live in is the way it is. It can become more compassionate if all parents begin to instill kindness and compassion in their children. But yeah, everybody acts upon their instinct, which is revenge. We have this, it's our part of our blind passions, getting revenge or retaliation. And then that's the darkness we find ourselves in. So in Buddhism, we see the light. It's the light of the Buddha, which is equal compassion for all people, everyone who is in pain and agony. And thanks to that compassion, we are being illuminated by the light of the Buddha, becoming aware of where we are hurting. And little by little, thanks to the healing power of the Dharma, we get cured of the disease of suffering that we all are afflicted with. And we see the point of living. Why is it I'm born? I'm not born to suffer. And we can pass that on to our children, grandchildren, and envision a beautiful world we can all enjoy living in. So good job, everyone, for being here, practicing together. Have a beautiful Tuesday. Bye.
Thank you, Bisa.